All right, today we have Bobby Sandhu from. I guess he's a really a Jiu Jitsu enthusiast. He's a comedian. What else do you do with your life, brother?
Not too much else other than just, I don't know, party, have fun, socialize. I'm a pretty social guy.
Yeah.
So I spend time talking to people. I should probably listen more, I reckon.
And you were just in Thailand, right? And are you in Australia right now or US?
I'm back in Oz. I'm on the Central Coast. Yep.
Oh,
Sick.
cool.
Between.
Yep. And for your, because man, you do a lot. You're doing, and we were just saying the other day in the last potty, like comedy. I reckon that's up there as one of the most fearful things. You know what I mean? Like it's like comedy and Conor McGregor walking in the cage sort of setup. Like like it's on show. You know, more than other things. So I guess that's why it's just so respectable. You know, and the fact that you're doing jits too, it's relatable.
Yeah.
And Jake has always said he's like always wanted to have your own sort of comedy, like just go out there and give that a shot, eh?
Yeah, well, I mean, I talk a lot of shit, so it's scary. But how did you get into that? And was that like just super scary as you got into it? Like, was that something you were just like, I'm just going to do it, or you had to prep for a couple of years and?
Of course, it's definitely daunting at first. Anything can be. I think anything that's unfamiliar that you've. At first, I didn't even know that comedy was a thing you could go and do, or how do you get started? What are people doing that's totally unfamiliar? I started off. I was listening to different comics on podcasts. I listened to a lot of Joey Diaz.
Yeah, he's sick.
I was like 18, and I just moved to Melbourne with the goal of trying to do what Craig was doing at the time, because he was the only Aussie guy who was successful at a world level. I finished high school. I didn't want to do anything that the people around me were doing. I didn't want to study further. My family had a little business, but I didn't want to go into that either. I was like, man, there's another Aussie who's just done something remarkable. Hey, I'm living in Australia. If I go find this guy, maybe he can show me how to do it. That was kind of my rationale. And so I moved to Melbourne, and then I realized, okay, actually doing jiu-jitsu every day and trying to be Craig Jones is a lot easier said than done, especially when you get into the process of rocking up to the gym all the time. I didn't have a prior athletic background, so it was really hard, especially too, like I've been very coddled by my parents. They did everything for me and stuff. Now I'm kind of living with relatives and stuff, and I'd listen to Joey Diaz, and he would be given examples about skill development in comedy, and then I would kind of apply them to jiu-jitsu. So he'd be talking about, hey guys, don't do the same 5 minutes every time you get on stage. Make sure you're trying new jokes. And I'd be like, okay, cool. That means I need to be trying new things on the mats. And I can't just be doing my A game. I would kind of translate the whatever the things he was kind of teaching. And then eventually he'd be talking about, so there's open mics, and you do open mics for a long time, and that's how you start comedy. And I used to have a big whiteboard where I'd plan my jiu-jitsu. Like this month I'm working on this, that. And even at the time, it seemed a bit crazy to kind of write, I want to do comedy. And I just put a little lowercase c on that whiteboard. I was like, you know what? I don't even want to tell anyone, or even tell myself really that I want to do this, because it sounds so ridiculous. But I'm just going to put that there to remind me of this is something I want to do. And inevitably, you do jiu-jitsu long enough or hard enough, like an idiot that I do, you get injured. And while I was like, I need some way to spend my time. And I found there was one open mic that was not far, and the times kind of worked out with training, because before I'd look at things and there were comedy courses around, but they were too expensive, or they would clash with class time. So many times it just didn't happen. And one day I just told all my mates, I was like, boys, next Wednesday I'm going to get on stage at this place. I'm going to do 5 minutes or whatever it is. And everyone was really excited. They're like, yeah, Bobby, let's freaking do it. And I remember day of, I kind of got a bit cold feet, and I knew there was like a sign-up period, and if I missed the sign-up period, I wouldn't get on stage. So on purpose, I called another mate last minute. I was like, I'll pick up this guy, but I did it. In my mind, I knew I was doing it to miss the sign-up period. But whilst going to pick up this guy, he's now one of the top-ranked MMA fighters in the country. He would just walk out of jobs and slap people. He couldn't hold down a job because he would just be doing crazy things, and he's just a freaking idiot. And I went to go pick him up, and my mate, actually my housemate, rings me and he says, "Oh, it's all good, Bobby. I've got here early. I've signed you up." And I was like, "No." I was like, actually, scratch me. I want to sign myself up. I was trying to have all these excuses and stuff. I get my other mate, the MMA fighter. I rock up there. It's my housemate, the MMA fighter. I get to the place. There's only, max it can seat 15, 20 people. No one's even got there yet, the audience. I just saw the empty seats, and I'm like, I can't do this. People hadn't even rocked up yet. I was like, far out. This is crazy. I don't even know I don't understand the objective. How do you make people up? How do you make people make this strange noise? It doesn't make any sense. So I said, boys, I'm going to watch this time, and next time I'll do it. And my mate who had gone and picked up was just disgusted at my cowardice. He goes, you know what? I'm going to do it. So he went up and he put his name down. And I was like, I'm a pussy, but I'm not a bigger pussy than this guy. Yeah. The right guys around you is a big way to do the right things. And that day he actually did comedy before I even did. And once I did it, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this at least once a week. Every Wednesday I'm going to rock up here, for however long it takes. And then eventually in Melbourne, I grew to sometimes doing 3 spots a night, just because I'm so lucky, that place is just flooded with comedy.
Wow,
that's cool.
And did you have something pre-written and planned? Like you played around with it?
It's like, Tyson says, you've got a plan till you get punched in the face, and once you're standing up there and stuff, you can't remember shit, and it's all just, you got what you got. Yeah.
Wow, dude. And how did it go? How did the first one go?
You see this. I see this a lot with jiu-jitsu and with people in jiu-jitsu, and I compare the two a lot. You think at the time I thought I did great. At the time I'm like, man, I'm the second coming. I'm Chappelle or whatever. Yeah. But now over the last 5 years of doing it, my idea of what's doing well and not doing well has kind of changed. It's weird though with comedy. There's a thing you have in the beginning whereby it doesn't come off as very scripted and pre-written, and that you do have something in the beginning that you kind of lose. But just there is a theory to comedy and joke structure, and you've got to kind of have that either explained to you or read it or come across it. So it was horrible, but at the time I was like, wow, I'm so good. Yeah. When they announced, hey, Bobby Sandhu's doing his first set, the audience is automatically on your side. They're very encouraged. They want you to do well. They're going to give you more of a leeway.
Yeah, true, man. That's cool. I'm glad it's like that, right?
Yeah, we have to give it a go one day. Eh? I just want to do it, even if I bomb, just to overcome that fear. I hate being paralyzed by fear. It's the same with like competing in jiu-jitsu for me. Like I'm 34 years old. I've only been competing the last 4 years, and it fucking scares the shit out of me. But that's why I do it, eh? And each time you get a little bit better, you get subbed by a couple wipeouts.
With and on that, because with you're competing with jiu-jitsu, man, like how does it did you find comedy help took the nerves away for jiu-jitsu, or did you find you didn't really have to deal with too many nerves when you competed in jiu-jitsu, or do you have like a system in place of dealing with that?
I really think it helps me compete in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. It's a very similar kind of feeling, the nerve prior and whatnot. I think doing comedy regularly, because that's the thing, it's like some people rehearse, some people they stand in a mirror and they do, but for the most part, it's very difficult to rehearse comedy, because again, that's a big thing for me. I barely write or prepare stuff. I do have one habit. One of the first things I did when I wanted to start doing, I said to myself, I want to do comedy is anytime, even though I kind of sidetracked your question, anytime something funny occurred to me, I said something funny in a group of friends, or even if a friend said it to me, I immediately jotted it down. So this is a habit I practice continuously 24/7. If anything remotely funny happens to me, I jot it down. Then I might even have 36 completely unrelated things, but sometimes you can somehow weave them together into some kind of a joke. Because otherwise, if you want to sit down and just come up with stuff, it's very difficult. But if you've got something that's made you smile or laugh already, you've kind of got the raw material which you can shape into something. But yeah, just having those nerves and just you kind of see, you watch that mental process of that pre-performance anxiety unfold so often that you're like, oh, okay, I see this happen all the time. It's the same way you see someone, they go for a knee cut. They always go for a knee cut on this side. Then you just put your reverse Hiva hook in. You get your reverse kiss of the dragon. You're on their back. It becomes, even though the physiology is still there, you still feel nervous and whatnot. Mentally, you're much more accustomed to it just by virtue of repetition, numbers, just by being put in that situation, like you said, over and over and over again. So I definitely think it translates. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And back to your, like, how you said you saw Craig do it and you're like, fuck, I want to do that. Did you guys know each other?
Not at all.
No?
Not at all.
And what, you just reached out or?
So I had to like kind of work my way to him. Like at the time he wasn't as famous. The 2017 he had that breakout performance, and I was like, "Whoa, that's I just didn't believe you could train in Australia, or I just didn't think Aussies were going to be ever competitive, with the Americans."
Yeah.
And I reached out to Ben Hodgkinson. He runs the Grappling Industries tournaments, and I just expressed my intention to him. I was like, "Hey, man, I want to do jiu-jitsu very serious. Like, how does that work? You seem to be making a living from this." And he basically said to me, "All right, well," because a lot of people would say this kind of stuff to Lachlan, to Craig and stuff, and most people, maybe they're not really serious, or at some point they change their mind. And he was like, "Look, what I'll do is if you come to Melbourne, I'll get you a job." So that was a big thing for me. I was like, at least I'll be able to, I'll figure some things out. And then a family friend, they put me up for a few weeks. So like slowly, when because my family was very against this. They were like, my parents were like first generation, come from India. For them, education and making like good financial decisions is very important just because of their background. So to kind of chase this kind of pipe dream seemed very, very odd to them. And my dad he thought I was going to be this is like akin to me I want to be a drug addict or something crazy. Yeah. No future, you're throwing everything away. And he even said to me, he goes, "If you leave, don't come back." But later on, they've really kind of supported me just by seeing that determination. And I've noticed that people, when they see you and you're very, very determined and persistent, everyone kind of bands around, and so many people have helped me, all over the world just they're like, you know what, this guy really wants it, and people respect that. People respect passion.
Yeah, they do.
Just rocked up, had a place to stay. Like it was like an hour out from the gym, but at least I had a job, I had a roof over my head, and I remember the first time I rocked up, I'd driven through the night because whatever, I'm an idiot. I left at like 8 p.m. So I've like all night driven to Victoria. I got there, me and a mate, and I'd been popping these no-dose pills.
Yeah.
Caffeine pills. So for a good hour or two, even before I got to Melbourne, I was ready to have the runs. As soon as I got to St. Kilda, I just darted to the toilet and I destroyed that thing. Then I'm on the mats and I'm supposed to be rolling in that, and it was an early morning class. I remember seeing Craig for the first time. And for the longest time, when we would have interactions, they'd be very, very awkward. I remember one time we're on the mats together and I noticed he's standing next to me and I'm like, oh, this is my chance to, make an introduction. So I turn and I'm looking at him, and now I have to say something to him. Because it's the same as I feel like in a lot of situations when you're very self-conscious and you're thinking too much about what to say and do, it never works out right. I said something stupid to him like, "Oh, did you know I can deadlift 100 kilos?" And he's like, he walks over to the other side of the room. I'm like, fuck, that's the first impression. Things gone, But the first morning, I remember I was like subbing a few guys and kind of doing it around Craig, and he kind of noticed, okay, this guy is doing okay. And then Ben Hodge told me, hey, that's a 8 a.m. session or whatever. Come back in a few hours and do the 10 a.m. So no sleep. I went back to my hotel room. I slept maybe an hour or so, and bang, I'm there for the next session. And when I rocked up for the next session, what they call the 80cc prep class, I met Lachlan Giles, who at the time he wasn't well known. He hadn't had his breakout performances and whatnot. I just kind of knew him as Craig's coach. And funny story, there was a girl I rolled with in the morning class who totally destroyed me. She was doing all this modern jiu-jitsu and stuff. And when I asked her, who are you? She's like, I'm Lachlan's missus. So I thought Lachlan must be Lachlan Giles. But it was actually a different Lachlan. And then I see Lachlan on his socials, he's got pictures with all these other women. And I'm like, man, Lachlan's fuck. He's freaking, he's doing all this crazy stuff. But anyway, I rocked up to the ADC session, and Lachlan says to me, are you new? And what I thought he meant was, are you new to absolute St. Kilda? What he actually meant was, are you new to jiu-jitsu? Like, have you done jiu-jitsu before? This is an advanced class. So I said, yes, this is my first time. So then he goes, oh, you can't do this class. This isn't even for you. And I'm like, oh my God, the best coach in the country just told me jiu-jitsu isn't for me.
Yeah. Fully.
And Craig's off to the side listening to all this, and he goes, no, he's good. And all Craig meant to say was, no, he's good enough to do this class. And I was like, Craig Jones just said, I'm good. Bam, one more confirmation I need.
Yeah.
I came home, said in my journal, I was like, I've got this.
That's sick, eh?
Yeah, man.
What about like now? Are you training over in Texas and stuff like that a bit? Or are you kind of just cruising around Australia, or are you going back there soon?
Yes, I spent a year in Texas. Previously, my visa, it's like you can apply for an ESTA that lets you stay there for 90 days. So I had that for a bit. Eventually, I've gotten a B2 visa, which lets me do 6 months. And I think I can extend that up to 9 months. So
Sick.
my last trip, I did that. And I head back in a few months, and I'll do that again, do another 6 months. But I'm gonna go to New York for a bit. I've been hearing about Jason Rao for a while, so I want to month training in New York before I head back to Austin for another 5 or 6 months.
That's sick.
What's Texas like, man? What's it like living there? What's the lifestyle like? Because I want to go there. I'm trying to sort my visa out at the moment too, so we want to go check it out. So what's the place like?
I love it. I love it. It's a wild place, everyone's got a gun and shit, but
yeah.
And comedy too, eh?
Oh, the comedy is incredible. Like Rogan's Club, there's so many other cool joints. I can't remember some of the names aren't coming to me right now, but there's just everyone who wants to be a comic from everywhere is there. Like there's Kill Turn, with all these top shows, the level of talent, like the amount of pros. I'm pretty sure Shane Gillis is living there. A lot of like super high level guys. You can go watch these guys for like $20 too. I mean, so long as you can get a ticket, which that's the hard thing. There's lines around the block and stuff, but if you're into comedy or into jiu-jitsu, it's the mecca or the hub for both of those things. So, and on top of that, again, I've met some of the most helpful, nicest people in the world. But then, 2.5 hours from you, there'll be a horrific school shooting. So it's kind of odd. You see that in America, where I feel like the average person's life in Australia is pretty decent. We're over there, you're working a lot more. The wages aren't as good, but the top, like the athletes and the people who are really wealthy, their lifestyles they can do things you can't do here. So it's both the good and the bad.
Yeah, that's the American dream, right? If you go hard for it, fuck, you can have it all. But other than that, they don't have the same. They don't have Medicare and stuff, do they? No, they don't. The healthcare is way different. Yeah. With your jiu-jitsu now, man, what do you feel like like how you were saying you had a whiteboard and you were working on stuff? I'd love to know more about that. And do you find that works really well for you? Like, how do you choose what you're going to next and when you're ready to move on to the next thing?
Right. Yeah, I think like when there's not much failure or when there's too much boredom.
Right.
If you're able to, like certain positions now, like let's say finishing from the back, I get to the back. Most of my training partners now I'm finishing them pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So now if I keep doing that, I'm getting taps, but is that the best use of my time? Like, even as someone who's on the mats a lot, you've still got to prioritize a lot because this is a super competitive sport these days. And I say that to hobbyists even more. I'm like, dude, if you're doing this 3 times a week, you need to really think about what you're putting your time into. And again, sometimes you're just sick of something, you don't enjoy it. Like wrestling's tough. Like it's hard to freaking do heaps of wrestling. But if like 80-cc trials, you got to be able to wrestle. Like every match is going into overtime. So I kind of have my strengths based on attributes as well as like what I consider the fundamentals. And then I'll kind of work on different things depending on specific opponents and specific rule sets, like different strategies that I think would kind of deliver victory earlier. But nowadays I'm kind of thinking way more in terms of, because this is my 10th year of training and 6 years of doing this like pretty seriously. And I think I've got my kind of kill spots where I'm very, very dangerous. Now I think it's more about where the match begins. And the match begins in one of kind of 3 scenarios can play out. Either both of you remain standing and you have some kind of a wrestling-esque exchange. It's not truly wrestling because I can fly into leg locks, I can fly into submissions. There's a lot more there than just regular, freestyle or folk style Greco wrestling. Or one of us pulls guard and one of us is playing guard and the other is passing. So I think in the very beginning, I need more skills just to get off to a good start, because that's everything. At the highest levels, you make a mistake or you put yourself in a bad spot, and the likelihood of you coming out, people are just very good at capitalizing, and that little molehill will turn into a mountain, and before you know it, there's nothing you can do to, you're getting subbed. So I think just the very onset, focusing on guard retention, focusing on passing, and focusing on wrestling.
Awesome. And for someone new that wanted to start jiu-jitsu, because I asked Kit this too, and just like everyone has their different say. If someone was just starting jiu-jitsu, what advice would you give them to speed up their transition as much as possible? Because the better you get, the funner it gets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I found that with the guitar during the lockdown. A friend left their guitar with me, and I kind of just stole it, but I just kept it. And they asked, I was like, I never got past that curve where I could enjoy playing it.
Yeah, right.
Out. So then eventually I gave up on it. Even though I've paid someone, I don't know how much money for lessons, and I have you can grab some random person on the street who's never seen a guitar and have the same level of skill as that person.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain, threshold you have to cross before you can enjoy something.
Yeah.
That's why just sticking with something simple, like some kind like mount escapes, and you just work mount positionals. Like recently I've started coaching at a boxing gym. I was there just getting boxing lessons, and the guy started talking, "Oh, you do jiu-jitsu, hey, can you just start doing privates here?" And now I've got a bunch of dudes that are athletic and live active lifestyles, but they've got no prior grappling experience. So I'm the only grappling instruction. And I just said, you know what, guys? We're going to focus on pin escapes, and all we're going to focus on is just like mount and side control escapes. And I think, again, if you keep putting yourself, that's one of the things I asked Craig with Volk. I was part of the Volk camp for like a week. I kind of made myself, I wasn't invited. I kind of just with that. But I asked Craig because I'd see him just kind of tapping Volk a lot. And I was like, what's the rationale behind this? Like, what? He said, Bobby, eventually, even with myself and Volk, or myself and anybody with a huge disparity of physical attributes and skill, if I do the same thing to them that many times, you're just kind of bound to instinctively figure out a way to stop it. Because trial and error, if things keep going wrong, you're put in the same situation over and over again. You become aware of the subtle tells people do before they do a move. And then you can kind of take preemptive steps to kind of like block the move earlier. So I think if you're in too many different positions all over the shop, it's going to be too hard. But if you really narrow things down, otherwise jiu-jitsu or any skill becomes way too overwhelming, You want to work on crowd work, material, riffing, all at once. No. How about you only do crowd work? You force yourself for the next 50 sets. Like Ethan Granson would say that to me. I'd ask him a question about back control. He'd be like, Bobby, go do 20 rounds of just back position. Put yourself in that same situation over and over again. And when you're beginning, just like a mini game. Like jiu-jitsu isn't submission anymore. For you now, jiu-jitsu is just get a guy off mount. Change the objectives of the game and just focus on pin escapes first, because it's also good to know. Sometimes getting pinned is worse than getting submitted. And you add. So most people are doing this for self-defense or something. If I have you in a pin, you can't get out, and I can strike you. I don't need a submission. Like, we only started doing rear naked chokes because elbows to the back of the head got banned. If you go watch old fights, guys would take your back and just start hammering their elbow into your brainstem, and before you know it, you don't want to play anymore.
Yeah, fuck, that's true.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, it seems like all you guys have like a very similar philosophy on the learning system, and yeah, it's we've kind of been doing the pin escape stuff for a while. Hey, like you showed that to us years ago.
I just listened to Gordon Ryan and Dano talk about it, I think, and they were like, pin escapes and submission escapes, because then you try shit and you're not afraid. And man, when I watched the Gordon pin escapes thing, and I did it for about a month, I reckon. I did like a 20-minute round with a friend over and over again, and it crazy how it does work, but it's really the only part of jiu-jitsu I've done that with. And it gives me so much confidence in that, because I'm like, oh yeah, when someone gets on top of me, I'm going to get out,
So true.
So it's like, it's crazy, but it was hard work. It was fucking hard work. Someone just grinding on you for 20-minute rounds. But exactly that, you pick up, even from not the video, you pick up the subtle details of tiny little things of just doing it over and over again. And also I picked up details of being in mount, trying to stop him from pin escaping, realizing, this is, so you realize the training partner's getting lessons too. And on that, like I heard Gordon on a reel recently talk about the real work, because it's easy to go to the gym and do 100 burpees and do your workouts and shit. That's easy for most athletic people. But he goes, the hard work's going home and studying the tape and figuring out, what did I do wrong, or why did this armbar not work? The mental work, that's the hard work. And it is. Mental work's more fatiguing than the body.
Yeah.
It's like doing body work and stuff. It's like when I'm reading about the rib cage and which way this joint's gliding and shit, I'm like, fuck, that taxes me more than hill sprints.
Dude, for sure. And like you said, like, that's the truth. Like, I spent a long time. I've been doing jiu-jitsu only 7.5 years, so not ages, but enough time I should be better than I am. And I think that it was because like I just rocked up to classes. I just put all my trust in my mentors, and I didn't actually really think. I just kind of rocked up and tried to win. And I did that for the first, like, I reckon 4 or 5 years of doing jiu-jitsu. And it's only in the last 2 years really that I've gone, okay, how do I want to be as a jiu-jitsu athlete, and what do I want to do, and where do I want to be, and why am I not finishing? And it's been so much more fun. Like, I wish someone told me that when I was a white belt.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, something to work towards.
Yeah, and competing at white belt too, man. I wish I competed a lot. Wish I had 70 to 100 matches at white belt. You know what I mean?
With the training system so how do you find the training system differs between, say, when you were training at Absolute in Melbourne compared to training at B Team? Is there a different methodology between the two?
Yeah, I mean, Giles he's the biggest nerd in the world. Like, we'd be finishing rolls and like entering data into like Excel spreadsheets, and very like he would. I remember once he was like, "Oh, we're all going to fill out these sheets and get up in front of everyone and talk about this and that." I like the system. One thing he did really give me though was, I always say to people, and this is good advice for newer people too. Like, if you're going home from jiu-jitsu crying and just getting crushed, all you need to do is get leg lock defense and guard retention. Now nothing bad can happen to you in jiu-jitsu. If we start doing jiu-jitsu and I pull guard, you can't pass my guard and you can't leg lock me. At the very least, I'm invincible now.
Yeah.
But there's some two good early aims to have. Look around in the room that you're doing jiu-jitsu and say, hey, I don't want anyone in this room to be able to pass my guard or leg lock me. Once I have that, I can start to pass, I can start to get on, I can do anything, and then I can always retreat back to this very safe kind of base from which I can, almost like Fort Worth. You can do like little guerrilla attacks. Go out, bam, 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 things go wrong. Okay, retreat back to guard.
Yeah.
In terms of the training system, John and we've kind of kept that at B Team also. His rounds, like, they would do whatever depending on, because at B Team we rotate instructors a lot. You might have Nicky Ryan one day working back attacks, Craig teaching leg locks, Nicky Rod teaching wrestling. So it's not so much like you've got one head coach, which is a kind of different structure. And it's something with Giles, it was Giles was the only one teaching, and he was the one coordinating everything. And there's pros and cons to kind of both systems of doing things, because no one can be good at everything. Even someone like Gordon, who seems pretty amazing at everything. You're going to have areas that you're better or worse at things at. And when you're a true specialist in an area, that's when you can that's something you can teach very, very well and very easily. John, after the technique period, his positional rounds, and even now at the new facility, they're doing this. It's always mount first, followed by turtle, and then close guard, or sometimes what they're working on that session. When you do mount and turtle every session, particularly if you're doing, 7 or 8 or 10-minute rounds, if it takes the intensity down, and again, you're in that situation over and over again, and you're in the worst positions that you could be in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You mounted, it sucks. You're in turtle, the guy's going to take your back probably, he's going to put hooks in, he's going to grind you out. So for the person on offense, they're forced to develop good offense in some of the best positions in jiu-jitsu. So they've developed a good, strong attacking game. And you get put in the worst positions possible over and over again every session. And it's also a great way to warm up. I think first roll, especially in jiu-jitsu, we've gone away from warm-up straight into technique. And I think that's important because the volume of information that you need to know in jiu-jitsu, I think it exceeds every other combat sport. I think there's just so much information that you need to be aware of. So you should do a bunch of technique, and on top of that, if you're really serious, do as much study as you can at home. And then you go off into mount. It's not as crazy as going straight into wrestling. You stand up, you're wrestling. There's, I think, more likelihood of injury when you're not fully warmed up versus doing, however, 10 minutes, 8 minutes of mount position. Now you can slowly warm up, and then by the time you've done 2-3 rounds, it could even, for ADCC trials prep, we were doing 6 minutes, so you could do 6, 6, 6. You've got 18 minutes to roll under your belt, and then you do your open rounds.
That's pretty cool,
3.
man. Sounds fun too,
Yeah, fucking oath.
Yeah. Is there any conceptual gems that you found fuck, that helped me so much, no matter what position it was, that stands out in your head right now that you think about? Like I remember when Levi Jones came to do a seminar here, he spoke about guard retention. He imagines laser beams coming out the bottom of his feet, and they're always touching the person, and no matter what they're touching, and if they're not touching the person, he has to frame off them enough to get the laser beam back. That was a conceptual truth that helped my guard retention a lot, right? And it made me move in a certain way, right? Or say, I know, I think there was a Gordon Ryan one when he's shoulder crunching, he's like, never let their head come over the top of your head. And that makes your body move in a certain way instead of thinking shrimp out and all this sort of shit. Is there any big things that helped you, or a couple big things that helped you, that you can refer to the listeners, but also us?
Yeah, I think so. I got this off Damien Anderson. He said, all passing is just putting wedges in front of people's knees.
Sick.
If I can go knees to chest, you can't pass me. But if I can just put different limbs, my hand, my head, elbows, my knees in front of you, just even, you can go into a roll and just have that in your head, and you'll be surprised. Now you've got this kind of, rule of thumb to go by, and how much easier it is to, you move in different ways. I think that's one useful one. Another one is just in terms of back control. There's a primary defensive hand, and a secondary defensive hand. So there's one, if you got a seatbelt, one arm is across from the choking hand, one arm is on the same side of the choking hand. The arm that's on the same side of the choking hand, that's easily beaten with the strangle arm. So I might be, if I get too in the weeds here, stop me if it doesn't matter.
Good, makes sense.
Yeah.
The main impediment to you getting from here to anchoring at the person's trap, or what John calls the nape of the neck, whereby you have the strangle, the main impediment is them grabbing your strangle hand with the one that's across, and that's why that's the primary defensive hand. So all your goal is to momentarily disable it in some way with your other hand. Now the space is open for you to anchor. So understanding the only reason why you're getting strangled or unable to strangle somebody is either they're effectively using their primary hand from a defensive point of view, or from an offensive point of view, you're not doing a good enough job of getting this hand out the way.
Fuck, that's pretty cool, man. That's something to work towards straight away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Think of it from more of a defensive place.
Oh,
you know?
Whoops. Disconnected.
Whoops. Yeah,
My
dude.
phone ran out of battery.
That's all good, bro.
Oh, good, bro. It's still rolling. What were we talking about again?
Yeah.
Back control, primary defensive.
Oh, yeah, the defensive. That's good to look at it from a defensive way.
Yeah. Just come up with ways to block that arm. Fuck yeah. And are they the two major ones? Any other big ones you can think of?
It's the concept is the same in terms of other concepts. I guess heel hooking is all about the way I look at exposing the heel. It's like often I see less like newer people. They kind of dig the heel when it's not there.
Right.
And I think that's a lot like from not that I know anything about striking, but it's like throwing a lot of punches that aren't landing versus you don't throw, but when you throw, you land.
Yeah.
So I find I'm not digging much, but when I dig, I get the heel. The reason being, I only dig when I know it's there.
Right.
And the way you know it's there, and for me now it's kinesthetic, but in the beginning you'd probably have to look to see is the direction that the knee is pointing. And you'll notice, like for an inside heel hook, it'll be when the knee is externally rotated. So when there's that real juicy heel exposure, like you can really see that the knee is at an angle whereby it's very easy to catch. That's why, and that again, the same as the back control thing, that can be applied defensively and offensively. The specific ways of doing it are probably numerous, probably even infinite, but having that concept in mind, you shouldn't get heel hooked again. Because without heel exposure, there's no heel hooks.
Yeah, wow. Is it pretty hard, like when you're in B team for the boys? Do the boys get each other in many heel hooks?
It'll be more like they've chained attack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the 7 just happens to be a heel hook.
Right. Okay.
Because Gordon will talk about constant offensive and defensive cycles.
Mm-hmm.
So it's rare for let's say my guy. It's rare. Sometimes maybe a guy's just much bigger than me or whatever fatigue. He does a knee cut, he passes. But generally, he does a knee cut, I defend. He does a high set. So then you need to combine many moves together, just like boxing. Many. Then eventually you overwhelm the person with offense.
Yeah. Wow. And when you study at home, whose work are you studying? Like whose instructionals or tapes or what guides you?
I definitely watch John and Gordon stuff, but all the B team guys, their stuff's great. I kind of have to say that.
Joseph
but yeah,
Chen.
Craig's very innovative. He's always thinking outside the box. He's not worried about challenging convention. And I think that's what I wonder. I'm like at a certain point, if over the next 5-10 years when I'm competing at the highest level, if I'm just copying John's stuff, it's going to be hard to beat them at their own game.
Yeah.
So you have to look to guys, other guys, Giles, Flanagan. He's a guy I really enjoy his content.
Mm-hmm.
Even just watching current matches and stuff. I mean, again, studying is one of those things I tell people to do, but I don't really do myself. So
I just signed up to Sub Meta, man. Giles one, just the other day, just to check it out, man. It was cool. Hey, you see, he put a lot of work into it. Like what I love about it. Because he just did a straight footlock Aoki one, and he went into all the little details that I didn't even see in like the Gordon one that makes a difference to me. And I sort of love that he's going to be a similar size to me, so I can sort of trust what he's doing compared to someone a lot bigger that can get away with certain things.
And he's not steroids. Like I really, because he gave me a pole. I spent a few years with him. He's a pretty square guy. I reckon. When he says he hasn't done anything.
Yeah, no, and you can sort of tell just from people's bodies, man. You can tell when the head starts to change and the veins start popping, But he has like a little quiz at the end of it. I was doing a straight footlock one, and it was a quiz, and he has a photo here and here, and he goes, "What's wrong? What's right?" And I actually choose one that was wrong, and then it linked me to the part of the video that it showed that.
Fuck, that's good.
So I was like, whoa, dude, that is different, you know? And that definitely helped me like think about the little details more, because it was all these tiny little things.
Yeah.
Like in the footlock one from last night, he was like, don't ever like grab it too deep. He goes, you want to be grabbing it sort of shallow at the start, because then you can't raise it high towards your chest when you're trying to get the tension. And I've never seen that taught anywhere. And I was like, fuck, that's the difference. It's those little things. And conceptual. A lot of it was conceptual. So that's the way I learn, is I need conceptual truths, like you said just before with the back stuff. That I'll remember that now. But if you showed me, oh, this, you know, unless we do the same thing for a week straight or 2 weeks straight, then you forget it. And I think a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms make that mistake, is if they learn a different move every day of the week, you forget it. Fuck, I think I look back on 7 years of jiu-jitsu I had it somewhere, and man, I can't remember one move. Legit. Not one.
Yeah.
And
you forget more than you learn.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, well, yeah,
you do.
You're reverse learning, eh?
Yeah. But if I do something for like even like 3 times in a row, you start to remember that more. And I think that's important. And the positional sparring is important, and a lot of people don't do that. It's just like technique and rounds, and fuck, it's useless, you know. You can evolve. That's what with John's stuff. He brings in actual learning, and I think Giles does too, like concepts of learning outside of jiu-jitsu, just in general, concepts of learning that help people learn. So it's so cool.
Yeah, I reckon you see, like, especially at the moment, I think you'd be more in the scene, obviously, but like you're seeing like the Australian jiu-jitsu is definitely starting to catch up a little bit, like with all the Sydney West boys and Saunders, and like I feel like, yeah, it's like everyone's got access to some of the best coaches in the world now. You can see it's really starting to even out, which is sick for Australia, eh?
I've sat in on kind of what we're doing now. Luke was doing this stuff with Rao, just kind of virtual privates.
Yeah.
For, you know, COVID and Zoom, and people really started thinking about this kind of stuff. So he kind of went over there, built that relationship, and then, you know, had access to very high quality information. And it goes a long way. I see it as almost a technological advantage if you have access to really good information.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure, man. What's your goals? What's your goals for the next couple of years? Like, what's your big dreams, small dreams? What's your plan?
I definitely want to be like a good, well-rounded grappler. Like, and also as a coach too. Now that I coach and I quite enjoy that, I want to be able to be a holistic grappling coach. Like, not just grappling applications to know jiu-jitsu, but also like Craig does. You know, be able to teach MMA fighters, be able to have a good understanding of wrestling, of the standing position. But obviously, ADCC Trials for an Aussie athlete, you know, ADCC Trials is the tournament to be winning. And I think to do that, I kind of do go back and forth between the States and Australia. There's opportunities here for teaching wise to kind of try to monetize, you know, the jiu-jitsu learning that I've been doing, and then go over there with the high-level training partners and, you know, get access to all that. Now that I've kind of got that relationship with the guys there, and they're, you know, very helpful. So
sick.
12 months, it's just, yeah, I've got 3 and a bit more months here to keep saving, and then I'm going to go do another 6 months stint in the US. And now I just basically live to each trials. It's like, okay, the next trials, and then the next trials, and then until, you know, finally, hopefully one day you win them.
Yeah, bro, that's sick. Do you see yourself having a jiu-jitsu club one day?
Potentially, yeah. I could. I really, really love teaching. I honestly enjoy more than competing, which, you know, can be a bit stressful, and then, you know, you lose to someone, you wonder, oh, what's going to happen? Am I going to take steps backwards? But teaching is something I quite enjoy. I don't know that, because once I'm done with this, I want to go comedy full time. Like, as soon as I hit 30, 35, I'm 24 now. I just turned 24 last month.
Yeah.
So I reckon in the next 5-10 years, I'll be as good at jiu-jitsu as I'll ever be. And, you know, a couple of decades of jiu-jitsu, I'm sure it'll be tough to keep up a high level of like competition intensity training. Then I just want to do comedy every day as many times as I can, and just, it's the same question that motivated me to go after jiu-jitsu, which is, how good could I possibly get? You know, if I did all the things that I know would make me better at this, if I could emulate the guys who are already very good, what would that look like? And it's unique, because even if you're copying, let's say if I'm copying Craig's style, the person that I'm not Craig, so I am going to do things a little differently. I'm going to look at things a little differently, and it does eventually become your own unique style, whether it's jiu-jitsu or comedy or anything. It's a unique expression of who you are in some way.
Who's your favorite comic?
That's a tough one. So many guys I like. Obviously, Joey Diaz got me into it. Russell Peters was like one of the first guys who just, I remember like doubled over, bent over, holding my stomach. Like it hurt. Like I was laughing so much. And then probably the funniest person I've seen live was Ron White. He was incredible. Yeah, I mean, it's also, he's born and raised in Texas and he's performing in Texas, but that guy would make the place shake. Like
really? Yeah.
Yeah. Jake, he was incredible. Jake
and I saw Louis C.K. in Brisbane like a year ago or something, and man, he sold out Brisbane Entertainment Centre, you know, which is crazy.
Wow.
And
it was funny, eh?
Yeah, it was funny. It was like you see the real professionalism come out in them, that like how experienced they are, how calm they are, and how they're just flowing with it. And you see the best ones, they always almost drop something in at the start, wrap it around, and then come back at the end and like almost
tie it all in.
They say something so outrageous, but tied in, like the crowd's on their side at the end. It's like it's an art, and people that do it well, like Bill Burr, and that does it really well. Like you see, like it's, I don't know, the crowd responds to it so much, and it's like it's tasteful. It's a tasteful finish, and it's like that, like they bring wisdom into it, and almost make you feel like it's not all comedy. They'll make you feel for a second, then bring it back and make it humorous. And I'm like, fuck, that's some of the best do that. We saw, who else I saw? I saw Theo Von. He was pretty funny, man. He was funny. He got the, like, this is when I just got into him too. I was like, oh, this guy's pretty funny. But in person, you're like, nah, okay, he knows how to work the crowd. And even some of the people they put up before him, I'm like, fuck, this person's hilarious. I never heard of them, you know? They obviously know about him. So it's like, it's cool to see. I can't wait to see you on the big stage, man. When we're in Texas, hopefully you're doing a show there, and would love to come. I can't wait to just experience that. Experience some shit American coffee. Is the coffee shit over there?
Austin's got some pretty good spots.
Yeah,
true.
Austin's
so your spot, it might not be as good, but there's a few places, especially where the B team boys hang out. You know, DM me. I'll let you know. There's a ton of good spots. There's a ton of good spots. Yeah, I'm gonna be there from March. That's the one after April, isn't it?
Yeah.
Till
before April. Yeah.
Oh, that's
DM.
sick.
We'll meet up.
Sick,
yeah. I'm going to come train I'm definitely going to come train at B Team for a month. Like I told, when Craig was out here, we went to a seminar. I was with Gucci and stuff. I don't know if you were there. I think you might have been there. Was that one, or we've been to a couple? We saw you at one in at base a while ago.
Dude, I smoked that much weed. I barely remember what happened. But
yeah, when we come out, fuck, it'll be sick.
Yeah, it'd be cool. We're gonna, and our videographer will come, and we'll just come and just check it all out, man. It'd be sick.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude.
I'm sure, especially, you know, we're into the things we're into, and there's always a ton of Aussies there at B Team, so it's sick to have someone come through from home, you know.
Yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah, it seems like a good vibe, man. I'm watching all the stuff. They're killing on the YouTube channel, man. A lot of people don't know how much effort goes into that shit, but it's fucking sick. They're uploading shit every day.
Yeah, they've got full-time videographers. Just based around content creation. It's a big thing that Craig's pushing.
Fuck yeah, he's a smart businessman, eh?
Oh,
behind
it's so necessary.
Yeah. You can see that. You can see that.
Man, thanks for your time. Thanks for the chat. Thanks for also those jiu-jitsu concepts I'm going to put into action straight away.
Definitely.
And yeah, I look forward to seeing your journey, and look forward to catching up with you when we're over there. And all as well.
Yeah, all the best to you, man.
Thanks for reaching out, guys, and hopefully get to see you boys in person sometime.
Yeah, dude. Man. We're gonna say just before we finish, if you ever want to run a seminar up here, we've got a big warehouse with mats on the water with a sauna, ice bath, and shit. So
100 square meters. 100 square meters. Of mats.
hundreds of square meters of mats. And if you ever need a place up here, man, you're sorted.
Awesome. Thanks so much, boys. Have a good day.
Take care, you brother. Too. Much love.
See you, mate.